like to call to order the meeting of Monday, May 22nd, and if you'd please like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Haremza. Councilmember Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Mosherak.
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have the minutes from the special meeting of May the 4th and the regular meeting of May the 8th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So move, Madam Chair.
Support. Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Is there any changes to the minutes? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes will stand as submitted. Move on to public comment time. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the City Council on any agenda item or other matter under the city's jurisdiction, now's the time, and you're allotted 4 minutes. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Julian Ruck, 1423 Lapeer Avenue. I swear if I ever end up on that dais, I'm going to motion to get 5 minutes for public comment thereafter. Because I got a lot to talk about tonight and I don't have enough time to do it. After the last, or towards the end of the last meeting, you know, I watched online what you guys had to say. Very disappointing, as usual. Councilmember Ashford, I like you. I think you're a good person. And so I'm not going to say this to you as a person. I'm going to say this to you as a council member who said this is a two-way street. I would say this to any council member who said that. Does it feel like it's been a two-way street? I came here with a two-way street for one meeting and then had my rights infringed on, defending somebody else who had their rights infringed on. And it has constantly been suppression, sit down and shut up ever since. I've had to observe you guys lie about me on a regular basis, and I have a list of those lies right here if I have enough time to get to them. So there's never been a two-way street, ever. Every time I've spoken here on the things that I find most concerning, it's been with a 4-minute time limit. And one time I didn't even get that much. Never, not once. So then here's the other thing I would say to this two-way street comment. No, it's not. I don't know what fantasy world you live in, but the citizens of this community are your boss. This is not a two-way street. So not only have we been suppressed, myself, others, that move and motion to permanently take a minute away from every future citizen of Port Huron. You ended your career with that one, politically, because we will never let you live it down, Pemberton. So, how am I supposed to respond when you're saying things like, I didn't suppress the video footage? Yes, you did. I've sent emails to this council. I've spoken on your suppression of that footage multiple times. I emailed the Mayor's Association of Michigan, which you chastised me for doing, like I did it behind your back or something, with that information. So you know, so you lied. The meeting when Pemberton felt, you know, he could chastise me after refusing to speak to me for a full year. After my comment, he decided to reprimand me and threaten to have me ejected if I responded. And then went on to talk about respect and honesty. What a joke. Then you say, well, after that, what he said, you said at that meeting, about me, he's just looking for free land. It's not true, and you know it's true, and I have witnesses to that effect. I said the nonprofit would like access to more city properties in Harrison Point. You can't lie about me. With regard to kicking us out, which tomorrow will be 1 year since you did that, I didn't know it was illegal. Yes, you did. That's your excuse for doing it, by the way. I stood up and cited the Supreme Court precedent in the moment that made it illegal. I got a longer list of lies, but I only got 9 seconds. If you don't give me more time to speak freely here, I'm going to sue you.
Your time is up. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Brian Farquhar, 19th Avenue, City of Port Huron. First off, wasn't really on my list of things for the evening, but I drove past the skate park opening this weekend. It looked like a really good turnout, nice thing happening. The only thing is I complained last week about the parking lot and all the rest of it. I did see that parking lot was being utilized about 2/3 of the way full. License plate number 062X713. Happens to be a city vehicle. Mr. Freed will know that. Parked right in front of the no parking sign on the sign. I have a picture of it in my phone if anybody'd like to see it. There was also numerous other vehicles parked in front of the no parking there. Like I said, 2/3 of the parking lot was still open. It was rather busy. The business was closed. Not a big deal for the weekend. So we'll move on from there. Back to the ordinance you have tonight, the reading of the ordinance. I really hope that someday what we've added into the ordinance here is possibly I get cited a little bit after or named after me, because everything in yellow tonight is things that I brought up throughout the meetings. The only thing that everything in yellow tonight does also bring up is it brings up a monopoly in the city of Port Huron. It pretty much says that I can't put the trash in my pickup truck and haul it to a different place. If I wanted to pay the landfill, it says that I can't hire another company to come in and take my trash out. That you guys are now going to decide who does that. I don't like you guys deciding who does what for me. Plain and simple. I don't let you choose DTE for me. I don't let you choose the gas company for me. Like all the rest of that comes to happen. And a great sight of possibly why. I don't know if 2 weeks ago any of you happened to go down to the farmer's market. It's a really nice event that we have in this town every Saturday. The stench down there like 2 Saturdays ago was so terrible that if you wanted to buy a baked good or anything from down there and eat it there, you were tasting fecal matter. And that's all that you could, that's the smell that was in the air. I would have much rather ate or shopped in an outhouse than shop down there. I think that we all have Google. Whoever runs the wastewater treatment plant probably has some insight into the weather and knows when a northeast wind's going to come up. Let's throw a little extra odor eliminator in there and let's make for a pleasant weekend possibly. That would be a nice thing to deal with. And my only other question, to piggyback on what some of the people from downtown were saying last week. I frequent downtown quite often. I don't mind walking a block and a half, so I don't really have a problem finding parking in downtown. I do understand how to get parking right outside of a business, it may be difficult and whatnot. My biggest concern is for downtown, and I don't want to name the exact place just right now, but everybody will probably know where I'm speaking of, is we've had a place under construction downtown for probably 8 to 10 years. There's a fence outside of their downtown corner right now. If we're going to have somebody come in and do projects downtown, let's do them in phases and let's get like one step done before the other. Like I happen to know that this owner started the inside, now he's torn some stuff apart on the outside. The inside's not done yet. Let's see some progress here before we continue whatnot, because right now that corner here on Boulevard looks pretty bad.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ken Harris, 1521 Wells Street, Huron. Despite the $18 million that we've got the American Rescue Plan, we all should be here tonight with smiles, but we're not here tonight with any smiles on our faces because there's a lot of things that are going to happen that basically are going to take the average citizen and knock them down a few steps. But I guess what we would really have to look at right here, right now, try to step through this open thing tonight, is the capital improvement. Capital improvement thing has a lot to do with Water Street is an artery into the city of Port Huron, and from 13th to 10th Street, Water Street is probably the worst street in St. Clair County, the worst paved street. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars so these guys can get the marina, but they have a devil of a time digging out Water Street, and I don't see any relief there. The other thing that bothers me is the fact that with not any attention being done to Water Street, we've shifted it and we're going to make it the drag strip out of Francis Street because it's scary. It's set up for resurfacing this year. It's a racetrack for motorcycles right now, and I don't see any attempt by any officers or anybody else to control what goes on in the neighborhood. One of the things I'd like to also talk about that's not in the program, but we don't have a sidewalk program anymore. We've just kind of thrown that down the road. I mean, as if Port Huron had perfect sidewalks. Well, it's not there. There's nothing in the capital improvement plan for sidewalks. Lapeer Avenue come into question, and I talked to Alan Jowett, and I guess he spoke with the mayor and the city manager, and that's been on and off probably for the last 5 years, and there are some definitely divots and stuff in it. Right in the center of 16th and Lapeer, there's a joint there, and see it'd be the 1500 block on the even side. There's a culvert that leaves a lot of things to be desired. But one of the other things I'd like to talk about, we talked about, I went and acquired the line item budget. That's supposed to be the true picture of what the cost for city budget is going to be for the next year. Well, I've been told that some of the figures in the line item budget are not as they appear to be. So I've asked the Attorney General to make a determination. If we petition the government to give us a document, I would think it would be full of facts. And I'm told that some of the wages that I cited in there weren't factual. And so I guess we're going to have to find out what the Attorney General thinks about that. I guess now we get down to the thing about the refuge. Mr. Farquhar brought up some interesting concepts, but how are we going to lower the burden for this? We're shifting the burden for the refuge. Right now, you're absolutely correct. The people with expensive property on the lake and on the water and stuff, they pay considerable more. And the other guy at the end of the line, the people that like me and the people in poverty and stuff, they probably pay the lowest because they live in the lowest value homes and stuff like that. But all we're doing is just shifting the parameters. We're putting the burden on the people on the poverty level, the people on middle income level, and the places in the city of Port Huron and the local neighborhoods. So I think that we should be thinking about that. And in fact, if you stick to your guns and you stick to $285, you should try to figure out a way to lessen the initial impact. That you're going to get a $600 or $600, $1,000, $10 or $1,000 tax bill, but you throw this extra $285 on top of that, that's going to hurt some people. And I guess last but not least, I found out that
Ken,
nice thing
Ken.
is called.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening?
My name is Philip Reisner. I own property here in Port Huron, Michigan. I was here on May the 9th of last year regarding and addressed this council concerning payment to the city of $10 and a Michigan justice fee, which is alleged, which was adjured against me by the hearing officer, and received a notice of corrections and fines from Lieutenant Kuhn at the time, about 9/18/16, it was 7 years ago, saying that if these were justly billed to me and that if payment is not due, that they would start court action. And they sent me this bill. Now, last year I brought it, it was large, a large poster size. This bill does not, this is the $10 bill. So I requested a receipt from the clerk. This is what I got. This has not got my name on it. There's no date. It doesn't even have the city of Port Huron. There's no date stamp. Just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And it doesn't even have $10 in the amount. So under the Freedom of Information Act, I requested that, has anybody from the inception of the city of Port Huron received any debtor paid a debt without receiving a dated receipt for payment? I'm the only person on record who has received a receipt, per se, that hasn't got a date on it. Isn't that interesting? So what I said last time when I was here, I said that if I don't get a receipt for my $10 payment, which, by the way, they said that what they were going to do, or they may do, it says right here, I could have lien on the property, garnishing of wages, possible 90 days in jail. Well, you see, I'm trying to avoid that as best I can. The only way I can do it is to receive a receipt for my payment that the city says that I justly do. Of course, that's your administrative hearing officer. He said I owed it. Lieutenant Cohn said I owed it. They sent me the bill. Now, do I owe this money or don't I owe this money? And if I owe it, I'm going to pay it. And each one of you council members are going to get a payment, if not every week, from me. And I want you to assist me in getting a treasurer's receipt from the city of Port Huron, or we will start legal action against this city for fraud and collusion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Mayor Rep, City Council, Brent Gillette, 1723 Military Street. I stand here to thank you for your support for the Letter Carriers Food Drive on the second Saturday of May. We know that in our community, 1 in 5 people are food insecure. That's about 48,000 in our county. We know that this is a difficult time with the changes in DHHS payments to folks, and we know that it's putting quite a burden on our food pantries. Just want to give you a quick update with some gratitude to say, with your help, we were able to raise 48,000 pounds of food in one day. Wouldn't have happened without good support and good leadership. About half of that, a little less than half of that, was right here in the city of Port Huron. And that wouldn't happen without people helping to get the word out, without good support from leaders in our community, and without great citizens that look out for one another. So I want to thank you on behalf of United Way, the letter carriers in our local area, and all the recipients of food in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Holden Gothier, 11th Avenue. I watched a couple weeks ago online what happened on May 8th here, and Mr. Julian Rutt really had me thinking I should look into what you guys have going on the YouTube channel. And so I looked, and since January 1st, 2021, there's only 2 meetings not on YouTube. July 12th of 21 and May 23rd of 22. So over the course of 51 meetings, this is our 52nd since January 1st, regular council meetings, just 2 have not found their way to YouTube. Interesting. Camera. So I'm just curious. If your goal is to be transparent about these meetings by posting them to YouTube for easy access, my concern are the omissions. Transparency should be all or nothing. Put them on there or don't. These need to be made available. And if they aren't, I think we deserve a reason why. He's been asking you. And all I heard from 2 weeks ago was, I'm not sure. which is just kind of concerning because it's starting to make me wonder what happened in July of 21. So, are you still not sure, Mayor Rep? My second comment is in regards to the issue had by many last council meeting, and apparently this one too, the additional waste fee. And I've kind of just come to plant a little bug in your ear about maybe the pay-as-you-throw method, so we're not disproportionately charging people all the same thing, and it's hurting the bottom line of our 28% poverty rate here in Port Huron, charging these people way more money than they should be paying. Rather than have a flat rate for everybody, which is just kind of not fair, people could pay proportionately for the amount of garbage they actually produce, and it's often done through special bags sold by the municipality or a tagging or sticker system. When paying through a fixed fee that's hidden perhaps inside of a property tax, it has an effect on citizens to almost think the program is free. It's not. It's almost invisible to the average household. When there's a flat rate, there's no incentive for citizens to reduce their output of garbage at all. And there's a strong correlation between a pay-as-you-throw jurisdiction and reduced waste. In a 2008 study by Skumatz, some municipalities reported that the pay-as-you-throw model reduced trash volumes by 40% and increased recycling by 20%. So my assumption here is that over time, after an implementation of this practice, I'm sure our bid by waste management companies will probably come down some due to less volume and less demand. At the very least, a pay-as-you-throw model encourages environmental acts like recycling and composting, which is often free in a pay-as-you-throw model. I encourage everybody here to look more into these models because I believe they're all around better for the environment and there's better transparency for our garbage bills. We'll see exactly how much we're paying when you go out to the street and have to use the bag you paid for. As far as this goes here, even the EPA kind of recognizes the pay-as-you-throw model, where it reduces residential tonnage disposed by 16 to 17% due to increased recycling. And to quote them, do you have neighbors that never seem to recycle and they always leave out 6 or 7 bags of trash? You're helping them pay for that waste. And under the pay-as-you-throw model, everyone pays for only what they generate. Also, my last comment, as I was leaving here today, Emterra was clearly in a rush, very late to pick up my X-bin. They decided to throw it all in the street. Do I have to clean that up? Am I going to get a cut of that? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Kevin Linke, Mom's Basement. You know, Mr. Freed, why don't you pay attention? Because I've been watching all the city council members, and I do this every 2 weeks. You're the only one who doesn't look at people when they public speak. Like, you just sit there and suffer through it. You know, you're a city manager, and we get that you think you're better than all of us, and, you know, we're just little peons, but, you know, appease us and just pay attention a little bit, because, you know, you are kind of a representative of the city. So I don't know what's so important in your laptop that you can't, you know, take 20 minutes to listen to the residents of the city, but do a little bit better. You know, Mayor Rep, I know you weren't too happy with the last council meeting and the way it went, and I'm kind of glad. You know, the whole point is to disrupt everything and kind of just be a pain in the ass to some of you. But, you know, you don't like us disrupting the meetings. You don't like us saying things from our seats and stuff of that nature, and that's fine. You know, I can respect that. The issue I have, though, is when people like Mr. Pemberton and Mr. Mozeric and yourself start responding to public comment after public comment. It's not set up for that. That's not how this is supposed to go. You're not supposed to get to throw your 2 cents or your opinion and respond to us then. If something's said during public comment that you guys don't like or you want to address, set it as an agenda item and we can talk about it 2 weeks later. But this isn't going to be do as I say, not as I do. So as long as you guys keep acting the way you're acting, we're going to keep acting the way we're acting. And if you want us to act better, you guys have to act better. I think that's fair enough. You don't get to talk down to people the way you do. Neither do you, or you. And secondly, you know, you claim that you don't have the authority to suppress that video. I believe you. I think James has the authority to do it. I think James is the one that did it. Or it had to do with Mr. Shouty. It's one of the two, because I know none of the council members did it. I know the videographer up there didn't do it. You're saying it wasn't you, so I got a feeling it was Casanova there. And we all know why he wanted to suppress that meeting. He didn't like what was being said. He didn't like what was being discussed. He didn't like the allegations that were levied against him. But, you know, I'll tell you, James, if you don't like things said about you, you should not do things that put your name in a police report. Because, you know, that's a public document and we get to talk about it. And, you know, you guys you can't just make stuff up as you go along. And you can't just do what you want to do and then expect us to not do what we want to do. You know, it's like Ms. Ashford said, and like Julia was talking about, it's a two-way street. You know, we're just going to follow suit to what you guys do. So if you want us to shut up when we're out here, then you guys have to kind of watch what you do up there. You know, or we can do what we did last week, 2 weeks ago, and have recesses and stuff. So, you know, however you guys want to do it, we can do it that way. Another issue I'd like to address is the Eddie Awards were over the weekend. A lot of public officials were in attendance. I received a lot of messages about what was going on at the Eddie Awards. And a few of the messages talked about Mr. Freed and his behavior at the Eddie Awards. Apparently he believes walking around with a pint of Fireball in his pocket is an appropriate thing for a city official to do at events. It's very childish, it's very frat boyish, and you need to grow up, James. But I know that Fireball is probably the drink of choice of a lot of people you like to hang out with, so it's kind of understandable why you picked that. But yeah, you know, you guys represent the city, you know, and you can't be running around at city events and at awards events with a pint of liquor in your pocket. It's a bad look. You know, you guys, the city, there's a lot of issues going on here, and I think you guys have a responsibility to address those issues and maybe tell certain people to start acting a little bit better. You know, because our tax dollars are paying their salary, and we shouldn't have to pay for that stuff. And as Mr. Shouty will tell you, you know, it's pretty expensive having to deal with some people's behavior. But you know, hopefully we work through this and we can get back on track. So see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Hello, my name is Pauline Foster, and I live at 2609 Walnut Street in Port Huron, Michigan. And I just want to say, I think it's a shame you guys, after people, the taxpayers, gave you millages, then you turn around and try to make them pay for their trash. I think that's a shame. We're getting shafted.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening? Seeing no one, I declare public comment closed. We will move on with the agenda. And we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. And you can take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosherak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. Items on the consent received and filed the May 2nd, 2023 election results for the Police and Fire Department 3 mil renewal proposal and the Department of Parks and Recreation 1 mil renewal proposal is canvassed by the St. Clair County Board of Canvassers. Authorizing the levy of the operating tax rate for the Blue Water Area Transportation Commission is authorized by the voters on May 5th, 2020 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. Authorize the rescheduling of the July Board of Review to the alternate date of Thursday, July 20th. Recommending the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approve above all others the application of 213 Huron LLC for Class C license pursuant to Public Act 501 of 2006. And we will move then to resolution number 1.
Adopting the capital improvement program for the 2023-24 through 2028-29 fiscal years.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton.
Madam Mayor and Council, I think we went over this last week, but if you have any questions, this was approved by the Planning Commission with compliance of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. It requires the capital improvement plan to be approved by the Planning Commission before it comes to Council. That has been done.
Does anyone have any questions on the capital improvement program?
Mayor Rapp, I just
Yes.
would like to confirm or address the comment about the sidewalk program that was put in CDBG, is that correct?
So we actually did it in multiple line items. We did it in CDBG, and we also addressed our contracts that when we do mill and fill work and street work, we address the sidewalks at that time to address ADA accessibility, ramp work. And so there's been literally millions of sidewalk work done in the city in the last 5 years.
So the program wasn't taken away, it's just been moved?
Reallocated.
Thank you.
Correct. And if you remember, under Act 51, that 5% of our road money must go towards non-motorized pathways. So we are in compliance with Act 51 for sidewalk funding. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Freed?
Yeah, Mayor Rep, on page 9, where we list in here all the parks and everything, I had asked the question, I didn't see Knoxville on here, you know, as far as playground equipment or something.
In this short window of the plan, Knox, the top park at Knox is not on there because we had just done the other playground, but we will continue to pursue grant funding for that top park.
Okay.
So you're referring to one by the basketball courts, Little Person's Playground?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then also, I think that the people should know the top 5 we have here on this capital improvement is number 1 was wastewater. The local streets that we're talking about is number 2, and number 3 is our water supply system, which is natural, and 4, our major street system, and number 5 was our public facilities improvement. And that's how it kind of rolls up the top 5. And when you look at the 5 bottom as far as capital improvement, it's sort of like a wish list. And actually, if I'm right, this capital improvement, we probably won't get to everything. Is that correct? Or
No, we intend to.
oh, we intended?
We intend to.
You go. Okay, well, we intend to get to all of this. I know sometimes we don't make all of them.
Correct.
But we intend to this time.
Yep,
correct?
and I think what's important as well is we try putting together a financial plan of doing so.
Right.
So when people look at the capital improvement plan, which you can download online at porthuron.org/open-government, you will actually see the corresponding funding mechanism to make these achievable.
Oh, okay.
So we can't afford to do them all at once, but over a long horizon, if we plan right, we hopefully can knock out a good chunk of them.
Yeah, and if our revenue stream stays as it is and something
That's a key
doesn't
point as
come
well.
up, that's the key point.
Key point as well.
And so your capital improvement plan goes hand in hand with your budget, what you're gonna hear later on tonight to make this all a reality. And just the last 5 ends of this, I got to the top 5, but we have our police and our fire and our cemetery and our parks and recreation that are at the kind of like bottom of this. But that's just to show you what all we're doing, what we're planning to do, what we envision for the city. Our you know, they're not like goals, but it's our wishes that these things get done in the interest of our citizens of the city of Port Huron, just so you'll know what we know.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Resolution number 2.
Adopting the annual city budget, including the Downtown Development Authority budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, and authorizing the levy of the tax millage rates.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Mosrak, supported by Councilmember Lamb, and I do believe Mr. Freed has a presentation for us, as he's already done.
Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so for folks who are watching at home, we had our budget work session where we in depth went over the budget and went over the change that we're proposing. And so I want to take a moment to recap what we had discussed, where we're at. And this is a budget with challenges, but we're in a much better position than we were. If you put yourselves back in where we were in 2014 and 2015, we have been able to restructure our unfunded liabilities, which have saved more than $86 million in the first year. We were able to address retiree health care, which saved $28 million within the first year as well of our savings. You put it over a 30-year horizon every year, that's about $2 to $3 million of more money we have to invest in core public services. Our residents trust us and invested in a parks and recreation and public safety millage. And so we have been able to really accomplish a dramatic amount. And so, good evening, Caleb. Thank you for interrupting my PowerPoint. All right, so we'll begin with our revenue projection. Again, we have 3 major sources of revenue: our property tax, our income tax, and also our state share revenue. You'll also see there's $700,000 of revenue from ARP. That is to fund capital projects within the budget. It's one-time revenue, so it is abnormal. And the next slide will show you the revenue without that. State share revenue, it's important to note that the House and Senate fiscal agencies met with the state budget director from the governor's office this week for a revenue sharing conference committee, essentially a revenue estimating conference committee. Things seem, there's a Terry, get good, slow down, what does that look like? Vehicles, the sales tax. So that number could be volatile. We're going to monitor that throughout the year on a quarterly basis with the state.
Right.
I took out the $700,000 of ARP funds to show you normalized operating revenue, what that looks like without the conversion of the $700,000 in it, just to be fair. Also, the proposed expenses are police and fire are largest budgets, but we also have an unusual capital outlay, which is the fire station. The state center, safety station, the three. Then you also have general government. Parks and Recreation, again, we've been able to maintain that funding thanks to the citizens support Huron. Here's the budget without the revenue share, without the American Rescue Plan $700,000 in expenses. Again, you'll see a large, unusual one-time capital outlay in this budget, but again, our three big are police, fire, and parks and recreation. And this is important because this is a promise that we're going to keep, that we're going to fund our parks and recreation. Now, there was a material change in our budgeting processes this year. For more than 40 years, whenever the city has entered into what's called CBA's collective bargaining agreements with our union groups, those lay out the wage increases for the coming year. So, for instance, for the last 2 years, it was 5%. The next year was 5%. This year, all union and non-union employees will receive a 3.5% raise. Instead of putting the potential wage increases with their respective line items, so if the city assessor makes this much, and we know that they probably get a 5% raise for the contract, so it should go this much. For 40 years, we have placed all the salary adjustments in a single line item for the general fund. So this is last year, $800,000 is in a single line item. That was for all the wages. When July 1 kicked in, all of the funding for that $800,000 would be used to cover the wage increases across the general fund budget. Most of you who look over the budget would clearly notice a line item of $800,000 there. What we did is, I thought, to be more transparent and to be, for a budget easier to read, we should take the potential wage increases that are agreed to in the collective bargaining agreements and actually put them with the line item. So with each position, it should say their budgeted wage and what is in the projected wage increase, not in a separate line item. I just think it's so the taxpayers can see what we're actually dealing with. At our last council meeting, someone mentioned that someone's getting 13 or 20% raises. That's not accurate. If you see here in this budget, and the budget you have before you, there is no longer that $800,000 line item. Okay? That's gone, which should be noticeable for people who've read the line item budget. Instead, for instance, I put the assessor budget up here. In the amended budget, the salary increases from last year that were agreed to in our collective bargaining agreements and passed by council last year are put into the budget. And then this year, the 3% wage increases are in your proposed budget with the corresponding line item. I think that breeds transparency because the residents and the taxpayers can know this is what the wage is this year, this is what's going to be next year, not in a segregated line item, which is the way it's been for 40 years.
So you just did a breakdown instead of having it all clumped in the one line
Correct.
item. So you detailed it.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, in the final analysis, it all still comes out, the results are the same.
Over multi-years. Over multi-years. So if you're looking at a 5% wage increase last year, and a 5% wage increase this year, and a 3.5% wage increase next year, total them all up over 3 years, yes.
Right, just predicated on whatever year that is.
Correct.
That is attributed to that amount of percentage.
Correct. So nobody is receiving a 13% wage increase this year.
Okay.
I was shocked to learn that maybe I could, but that is not the case. So that is the most notable change. Now, year over year over year, this will be able to provide a data trail, which will make it much more understandable to the end user when they're looking at the budget. Now, as you'll see here in the proposed general budget, we have technically a deficit, but it's not really a deficit because we are using our bond proceeds to cover the one-time capital improvement plan. So the one-time capital improvement plan is funded here through bonds, and it will not be like that way next year. Again, our fire station, our capital for next year is Sanborn Park and the playground and new parking lot at Sanborn Park. Pine Grove Park, one of our most heavily used parks, one of our most old and dilapidated play structures. We're going to invest $400,000 of ARP funds, hopefully leverage some private funds to make that just a world-class showcase park as a regional destination. 6th Street Park, we are one of the 2 municipalities in the entire side of the state to receive a $500,000 spark grant. And Nancy has been working with private donors to raise another $300,000. Renaissance Park. Renaissance Park is a beautiful neighborhood park. It's located right behind Station 4. It's just a wonderful place, but it needs a new play structure for those kids. And so we're going to invest in a brand new play structure in Renaissance Park this coming year. Trash reviews, a lot of talk about trash tonight, so I want to go over how we got here, what the solution looks like, what we need to do. Our current model is under state statutes, municipalities are able to levy a maximum millage of 3 mills to fund reviews. We used to, back in the 60s and 70s, fund 0.9, 1.9, and the millage rate, we constantly had to raise and raise and raise to the maximum statutory threshold because costs increased over time. So as costs increased, the city would just raise the millage rate. Well, the issue is this is the statutory maximum limit. It generates about $2,077,000 a year. Now, the reason why it's not 3 is because they have the heavy rollbacks over the years. Our contract with Ontario, minus my typo here, it says 2013. It should say 2018 to 2023. I made that graphic, so I have no one to blame but myself, and I apologize for that. Our contract ending last year with Ontario was $1.9 million. This year, it's going to be $2.6 million. Almost a $700,000 increase. There's a step. The reason for this is, one, we had a single bidder. And the reason why we had a single bidder is a couple things. One, labor shortage. Labor shortage is affecting every industry, including ours. If the city, we're struggling to get workers. Private industry is struggling to get workers. The labor costs have risen dramatically for these trash hauling companies. Secondly, machinery. To buy a trash truck is now about 30-40% higher, and it's about a 2-year lead time to actually get a trash truck. Also with the contract is tip fees at the dump. In the last 10 years, the tip fees at the dump have more than doubled. And that's because of environmental laws and complying with DEQ standards that the trash tip fees have gone up. So it's a whole multiple of reasons of why the cost of escalated is so great. Our cost has increased about 40% in the first year. What's noteworthy is that that's actually not bad if you compare to the national average, where cities are between 39 and I've even seen 60% increase year over year. In the region around here, we are the first municipality to have to renew our contract in the current climate. Starting this year and next year, all of our adjoining municipalities are going to bid out their contracts, and they're probably going to get stocked with equally high increases as well, which is important for the future slide I'm going to show you. In our current funding mechanism, we run a $530,000 deficit the first year, and by year 5 of the contract, we're at $885,000. It's not sustainable. So when we looked at what is everyone around us doing, what is Marysville doing, what is Fort Gratiot doing, what is Port Huron Township doing, in every single community around us, and about 95% of the communities in the state of Michigan do a direct fee for service. So they take their cost of the annual service and they divide it by the amount of residential parcels you have, and they do a direct fee for service. Fort Gratiot, that works out to be $202 a year. What's important to note, in Fort Gratiot, they do not do bulk leaf pickup. You have to bag everything. Port Huron Township, the same thing at $233. Marysville subsidized last year, and it was at $178. Their contract's up for renewal this year, and they'll probably see the same increase that we did. Kimball Township uses private haulers, averaging $260, no bulk leaf pickup. Clyde Township is north of $347, no bulk leaf pickup. So we offer the full spectrum of service, including unlimited bulk leaf pickup. The solution we propose is a difficult one, but a necessary one. It's taking our residential parcels, there's about a total of 9,947, dividing by our annual cost, which leads to a per parcel charge of $285 a year. So what this budget will do, actually in the corresponding resolutions at your next meeting, will allow us to eliminate the 3 mil tax and implement a simple direct fee for service. The way we're going to do it, we're proposing doing it, is
And the mayor said, we met with the mayor, and she said 285 is a lot to swallow all at once. And so in the budget resolutions, we proposed breaking that payment down into two different payments, one on your summer taxes and half of it on your winter taxes. That will give people more time to pay that over the course of the year rather than just when your summer tax bill is due. So it'll give them much more time to pay those taxes over time. And I'll take your questions.
Would you move away?
Any
from that
questions
edge?
from anybody?
I don't want to fall off it.
You know, like,
10 years to do for a temple.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So-
Anybody, can I ask if anybody wants to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't want him to fall.
No, I didn't want him to
Receive
fall
that
either. Although we could, yeah, be entertaining. No, I'm kidding. Is there any questions from anybody on council or comments?
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how hard did we try to come up with some options? Were there any options that you really?
So nobody wants to be in this situation. So we have literally looked at every option. So the first thing I did when we got the bids back, I thought, well, we could do it cheaper ourselves. We got to be, right? We've closed our pension systems. We don't offer lifetime retiree health care. So when the city got out of the trash business, it was in a different operating environment. We don't control unfunded liabilities. We're trying to reduce cost. So then I thought, okay, let's look at buying trucks. And we'd have to buy about 5 trucks, and I'd have to hire about 18 full-time people. So the first thing is the contract we bid out is for a contract that has to begin in July. So if I'm going to stand up an operation, I need to stand up this operation in about 5 months. So we met and we tried looking at, so we started calling people who sell trash trucks. We need to get 5 trash trucks, and I need to buy them by July 1. The lead time on a trash truck is about 2 years. So if I want to buy a new trash truck or a nice used trash truck in good condition, it's going to take me about 5 years or 2 years to get to it. Additionally, I cannot find workers now to fill the jobs we have open. So the idea that I'm able to find 18 full-time workers in the next couple of months is hard when I haven't been able to fill the jobs that we have open right now. But the question also comes is, we'll still have to pay the tip fees, we're still have to pay the bloated amount for the truck as well, and so some of those cost increases will also incur as well. So I think we still need to begin looking at getting back in the trash business. We have in our contract a 1-year separation clause. So what I want folks to know is that we're going to try to spend the next year to come up with an alternative. And if that means we can assemble rigs and we can hire people and we can find a way to get back into business, then we'll issue a 1-year notice to MTerra that hey, you're on notice, we're going to take it over ourselves. But that needs to be a thoughtful project and well thought out. The other things we looked at is cost reductions. Can we eliminate bulk leaf pickup, which is almost a little bit difficult given the amount of leaves? Can we burn leaves again? The state of Michigan back in the 60s or 70s passed a law that said if a municipality opts out of burning leaves, they can never opt back in. So tonight you all voted to allow burning leaves, the state of Michigan wouldn't allow it. Because that was a viable option, I thought. If we can't afford it, let's burn it. There's a few cities in the state of Michigan that actually do still burn leaves because they know that if they opt out, they can never do it again. We also looked at eliminating recycling. Like if we eliminated recycling and cut back services, what would that save us? We couldn't even get those numbers because the way they bid it, they were all bundled together. The only way to get a cost savings if we eliminated recycling would be to rebid the contract. The concern I have is if we rebid the contract, there was only one bidder last time, and now they know they're the only bidder willing to do the bulk leaf pickup. So we'll probably get the one bidder again, and there's no guarantee that they would honor their lowest bid this time. So we can rebid it and be in an even worse position. Because the bulk leaf pickup is really hard for people. When we ask service providers, why didn't you bid on our contract? They said, it's the bulk leaf pickup. You can't hire that many workers in the season to ramp up manpower. It's hard to get equipment. We just don't want to mess with it. And so I do fear that that would happen to us again and make us in a more precarious position.
Okay, just one more. So year 1, we were at the 2006-07, and now we find ourselves in year 5, 2009, and it's the trending, the steady going. So I know the trend is, we're just out of whack. So what were we thinking between year 1 and year 4? What were we doing? I mean, we knew it was coming, and I think that that's what hit people so hard, and now
So,
we're in this witchy now, or so.
yeah, so everyone starts paying their contract, in the last year. So post-COVID has changed everything.
Okay.
Plus, we're now in high inflation rates. So if you remember, we had 8%, almost 9% inflation last year. We're in the 6s and 4s now, but that's on a blended of inflation, right? So if you break down consumptory inflation in certain sectors, like vehicles are much higher than 8%, especially commercial vehicles are much higher than 8%. If you look at the chemicals we do at the wastewater plant, we're paying on sometimes 100 to 300 % higher than we paid in previous years. And so if you look at the inflationary pressures on this specific market, what you would need, labor and commercial vehicles, it's much higher. And so this all of a sudden came pretty quickly.
Oh, so you call that trickling, this trend, quickly, it came quickly?
Well, we had a 5-year contract, so we knew what the numbers were going to be.
Oh, okay. But we didn't have any recourse that you wanted to.
Well, if you look at our last contract with the 5-year spread, the 5-year trend, it was nowhere growing at this rate because we had locked in a contract 5 years ago. So we didn't know what our numbers were going to be until the bids came back.
And so explain to the people why the millage is out. I mean, because that wouldn't have covered it either.
The millage wouldn't have covered it.
Covered it.
No, it wouldn't have covered it, and you can't raise the millage. It's a statutory cap on 3.
Yeah.
That's why most municipalities, 95% of municipalities, don't use a millage because it's not functional. And if you look in the history of the millage in the city of Port Huron, over the course of 30 years, it was gradually raised and raised and raised until it maxed out to account for these growing costs.
So case in point, we're offering services that we can't even afford. So they're in a premier state. We're doing all this stuff, so we can't afford it. And how will we give the people the option to say, well, I don't want recycling, I don't want something. Could we have done something like that?
So we would have to rebid the contract. But that's something, and even then, the savings that was offered to us several years ago to eliminate recycling was only about $300,000 to $400,000. So even if we eliminated recycling, we would still be in a deficit. Correct. So the question becomes, and a lot of people in the community truly value recycling. And so that's something we have to talk to our residents about. Do they value recycling enough to pay for it?
And I think you should also admit to it, because I certainly will, that one end of town would be paying less and the other more. I mean, that's what they want. I mean, that's what I got an email tonight saying that they're paying more. They would be paying more than what I'm paying as Ms. Asher living where I live.
Well, we look at our housing stocks throughout the city.
Yeah.
So I think there are some of those who pay more than others. No doubt about that. That makes it a very difficult conversation to have.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. But you got to have it. You just can't keep it to ourselves.
We're fully committed. We recognize that this is difficult.
Well, yeah. Let's say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fully recognize it. And for those who say it's going to be difficult, and for those who don't like it, that's an absolutely respectable position, and we understand it. But unfortunately, we're in the position that have to facilitate services and execute the contracts and make sure the work gets done.
Yeah. And then lastly, by law, and I was reading the ordinance that we can't, I know some people here tonight call it a monopoly. It's not a monopoly. It's throughout the land.
Yeah.
But that is part of our responsibility to assume this as your elected officials. We took an oath for that, to provide these services. So.
Well, and when we do the single hauler ordinance, it actually is to the benefits of the taxpayers. If you look at Clyde Township or some of the other townships who don't have universal haulers, they are paying almost $100 to $150 more than the $285 because of not having a single hauler. So by doing a single hauler, we do two things. One, we maximize the purchasing power of the city to get the best rate. Additionally, you don't have 20, 30 trash trucks down your residential street throughout a week. So if every single neighbor could have a different trash truck, that's a lot of wear and tear on residential streets that were not built for commercial traffic.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor Rep.
Is there anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
some of this was covered, but I do want to reiterate that the millage, so right now we currently can't cover the new rate. We aren't allowed to raise the millage any further. And we're not allowed to charge some people an extra fee on top of the millage and not charge it to others.
Right.
So what ends up happening is, how do we cover this? We can't take it over ourselves quick enough, but we certainly plan to continue to look into that. What I want to know, that there's or what I just want you to address so that people understand, because there was a few comments of, well, I just won't pay it. It's no longer a tax, it's a bill. I'm not going to pay the bill. I'll take care of it myself. This is going to go on the tax bill.
Correct. We did have our attorney look at it. It is allowed to go on the tax bill, and it will be collected by the county treasurer.
And so this is not an opt-out by some and not
and,
others.
and to be clear, we are not the only municipality that does this. There's other municipalities in the county that do the exact same thing we do.
They also can put it on the water bill, but I don't think anybody wants it on their water bill either. So
No, please don't do that.
You know, at least on your tax bill, it comes, yeah.
Correct.
And I
Definitely don't want it on our water bill.
But the reason why we wanted to do that as well is that for the people who are receiving the tax benefit, they will also receive the bill. So you'll see the taxes come off and you'll see the new fee go on. It should be corresponding.
Right, so that was the next clarification is we won't continue to charge the millage.
No.
And then the bill.
Correct.
The millage is going away, as well as the extra $25 fee, and then the bill will go on.
Right.
And then, obviously, we've looked into this at great length. You showed all of the numbers from all of the surrounding communities. Statewide, this is still one of the cheapest, even with leaf pickup. Doesn't make it any easier to swallow, but it would be more costly for each of us to try to do it on our own. But I did want to also then recognize and thank Mayor Rupp for being proactive and coming up with the idea of splitting that. Doesn't negate the fact that some people are going to get an increase, but at least they don't have to come up with it all at once. They can do half of it now and half of it later. And then I did like what you had to say about we have a 1-year notice to opt out. So I think as a city, as a council, we need to continue to look at what are our options, what can we do? Is this the best option? Can we take over just leaf pickup or leaf and trash and make it cheaper, or would it be more expensive? But I want to make sure we don't just sit back after we do this and not look into that, so that if we can save any cost to the residents, we can get out of this and do it on our own.
I've got 7 bosses, and all 7 of you have told me this isn't done. This isn't over with. We're not done looking at this. So it is a priority over the next year to see if there's viable solutions, something we can do for some relief.
Yes.
I think it's important to include, James, if you remember months ago when you briefed us on this, I had brought it up to you. What about doing it ourselves, in-housing this? That's not an inexpensive option either. I don't remember, you had told me off the top of your head, what do these trash trucks cost?
These trash trucks go for about $400,000 to $450,000.
We need 5 of them. And
you need 5 of them.
Repairs and everything else.
A lot of repairs. For instance, our snowplow trucks, those are about $150,000 to $200,000. They actually require full-time mechanics because you can blow a hydraulic hose in the middle of the night. We have mechanics on 24/7. They can blow a hydraulic hose, they break. They have, actually, the trash trucks have bladders in them that must be maintained and replaced every so often because they'll start to leak. And so there's a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. So even if we got into ourselves, would there be that much savings versus what the private sector can do for us?
That was kind of my point, that it's not a super inexpensive option either, so thanks.
I remember years ago when we went to this, to privatizing it as opposed to having our own employees, which we did used to have our own employees and our own trucks and everything else. It was cost benefit to do it then. But as you've said, that was, well, I think it was been changed now for probably at least 35 years. And it was fine for a long time, but it isn't the same circumstances now. So I think we have to continue to look at options, look at whether it's worth it for us to do that, and pursue the 1-year clause if we get to that point where we think it's going to be a doable thing. But I agree with you, you can't just put it out there for a rebid. What if they bid more?
Yeah.
Because they know they've got us, by the tail. So it's like, you don't want that to happen either. So I think that it's going to take a lot of work over the next year to really, really look into it and see.
And it's also noteworthy that a lot of these companies, they lease equipment. So when they get a 5-year contract, they're buying equipment, buying the bulk leaf pickups. A lot of them use temporary workers, so they have to ramp up the hiring. And in that time of year, it's actually a precarious time for our labor in our city department, because if it snows, all of our CDL drivers are out plowing, not driving these which would require CDL. So it's not just 18 people, it's 18 people with CDLs, which is really hard to find 1 or 2 people with a CDL right now.
Alan?
Mayor Rep.
Yes, Councilmember.
I just want to echo a lot of the comments made already, but thank you in particular for coming up with the splitting it between the tax, tax bill idea. I know I talked to a couple people just in the last couple days since you had mentioned it, and they were thankful. I mean, it's as Ms. Ashford said, it's the right thing to do, but we understand that it's hard. It's an increase in a fee that we're paying is difficult no matter what, but splitting it in half at least, makes a big difference. And so, and again, city manager for going through and exploring all of the options and looking at every possible, leaving no stone unturned is much appreciated, and appreciate the effort that will continue forward.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on anything to do with the budget at all? And we will take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
As difficult as it is, I do say yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We will move on to number 6.
Accepting the terms of the skate park project grant in the amount of $5,700 to provide skateboarding equipment and classes at the new Optimus Skate Park.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Ashford. Does this mean we all get to learn how to
I would not recommend it, but I will say this is a small dollar amount, but because it's a contract, we have to bring it to you. So I know it is small. The grand opening was just amazing.
It was.
It was to see that many kids. I will say, I don't think I could make it down one time to see those kids. And truthfully, when they were constructing it, I climbed into the bowl to see how deep it was, and I physically needed help getting back out, which is pretty humiliating when my staff was there. But it was excellent. But yes, this will provide classes and to help equip those kids as well. I do want to thank the people who were out there that day. Nancy did a wonderful job, but to see people giving away free helmets to kids, water bottles from Alpine Cycles, even Culver's was there with chicken tenders, which was amazing. Just all around great day.
We had people from Windsor too. Did you?
Yes, I met a young lady from Windsor, and she told me that her and her friends come over here, go skating. It's the best park in the whole area. And she says that we enjoy going out to dinner at your restaurant. So it's all what it's all about. So
one thing I will note as well, the vehicles that were out there were loading vehicles that had special permits issued to be out there for that day. Also, the business across the street, they have truck days where you pull out and they can't get out when vehicles are there. So they knew they were having the grand opening, didn't bring any trucks in that day, so we appreciate them doing that. But I will say that parking lot was full, and there's no doubt we're going to need that parking lot. So I think it was great that everyone got to see that in person.
Yeah.
there's nothing else, we will vote on that.
Mayor Rep, one more thing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to again thank Nancy for her great work. I pointed out my house to Mayor Rep as we were standing there. So I said, see that blue house? I lived 3 houses from Optimus Park growing up. And it is a different world in that park from what I grew up in. And so it was a big open field, you know, and now, I mean, between even just seeing the play structure there and the skate park, it's incredible. So great work.
Sweat equity.
We will take the vote.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Ordinances number 1, please.
First reading, an ordinance to amend Chapter 38 Solid Waste and Recycling, Article 1 in general of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of specifying the rates and manner of billing for solid waste and recycling services.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, supported by Councilmember Lamb. I think most of this we've already talked about. If you have any other questions, it's actually just putting it into the ordinance, the refuse. Take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak,
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. And that concludes our regular agenda. City offices will be closed Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. And I just want to note there on Memorial Day, they have a wonderful service in Pine Grove Park. So if anybody gets the opportunity to go to it, it's, the veterans put that on every year and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the actual service is at noon. They have a parade usually before that. I think they're still having the parade. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but the service itself in the park is really nice. And it's a nice time to honor those who gave their lives for us. And our next council meeting, because of an extra meeting in Monday, is not until June 12th. Is there anything else to come before the council?
Mayor, I just, James and I talked about it, probably, and you too. Is there any difference in the traffic flow on, dealing with Lakeside in case you have any thought to that?
Yeah. So we've switched it to a blinking red light.
Oh,
I want to do a blinking yellow in red, but the traffic experts say that could actually cause confusion because people just didn't know who had the blinking yellow. To be candid, I don't know what's going to happen out there this summer. Our engineering team's looking at it, so is our traffic safety committee. It could be fine, or it could just be a nightmare. So,
Is there any way to put a sign that says three-way? Because I think it's confusing, because if you're not familiar with it and you pull up and it's blinking red, but you're not sure what the people on the other side.
I know that's in the works
right
right now. I know that is in the
It
works
should
right now.
say three-way stop up there somewhere, so people know how to do that.
Correct. We're also worried about stacking at the beach from around Holland into the beach, because most people don't know to enter from the south. So it's just not. I wish I had a better answer than we just don't know if it's gonna be good. But
well, are you working on it? That would be good.
yes, we are working on it, and we're monitoring because I think we're going to have to deviate when the situation changes. So if beach traffic gets really heavy and we can figure out something better, then we may deviate to something better.
Okay. So I would know
What I'm getting is I don't think one solution will work all year. I think when summer traffic picks up, so that's what they're constantly looking at, how they're going to look at it.
I was just referencing the peak time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all.
Anything else from anybody? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.